Before 2008, superhero movies operated strictly as standalone franchises. You could build a successful run with a single character, but those worlds never crossed over. For Marvel Studios, creating a connected universe wasn't even an option. They were financially cornered. To keep the lights on, they had sold the film rights to their biggest cultural icons, like Spider-Man and the X-Men, to rival studios. That left Marvel holding a roster of what the industry considered B-tier properties. And right at the front of that weak lineup was Iron Man, a character the general public knew virtually nothing about. Desperate to produce their own films and build their studio, Marvel made a massive corporate gamble. They secured a bank loan, but to get it, they had to put up the film rights to their few remaining characters as collateral. The terms of that bet were absolute. If this movie failed to turn a profit, the bank would take their characters, and Marvel Studios would completely cease to exist. The interconnected network of films that followed grew out of this need to avoid corporate bankruptcy. Marvel's first major production risk was their casting choice. Industry executives were heavily resistant to bringing on Robert Downey Jr., given his highly publicized personal struggles during that era of his career. But director Jon Favreau pushed back. He saw something in Downey's energy that perfectly mirrored the character of Tony Stark, and he actively fought the studio's hesitation to secure him for the lead role. Production began without a rigid, completed script. To make the scenes work, Downey had to heavily improvise his dialogue directly on set. That lack of structure injected the film with a raw, conversational charisma that broke entirely away from standard genre tropes. While the dialogue was loose and spontaneous, the physical production was grounded. A common assumption is that the Iron Man armor was entirely computer-generated from day one. In reality, they built heavy, practical metal suits. For close-up shots like this, the actors wore genuine, highly textured physical armor. CGI was strictly reserved for the complex flight sequences and heavy action set pieces. They took an absurd comic book concept and anchored it with visceral physical props and raw, unscripted human performance. That combination drove the film's unexpected massive success. Once the Iron Man prototype proved it could pull in audiences, Marvel immediately deployed a strategy to scale the franchise. They introduced a solo-to-ensemble model. Instead of throwing a team together, they built independent narrative pillars by giving heroes their own standalone films, before merging them into a single crossover event. This sequential model became the foundational logic for building modern franchises. The 2008 film also pioneered a secondary retention mechanism that is now an industry standard, the modern post-credit scene. By hiding an extra scene after the credits rolled, Marvel tapped into a psychological trick. They trained audiences to stay seated, converting the end of one movie into an advertisement for the next. They reinforced this with consistent Easter eggs, like placing Marvel creator Stan Lee in a recurring cameo role across the films, creating a reliable through line that dedicated fans actively looked for. The 2008 film provided the functional schematic for a self-sustaining cinematic universe. The release of Infinity War and Endgame marked a period where the studio's films became some of the highest-grossing productions in history. By this point, the production environment had completely inverted. The loose, improvised sets of 2008 were replaced by intense operational secrecy. During the filming of Endgame, actors were entirely denied full scripts, receiving only the specific pages required for the day's shoot. The narrative had also adapted organically to the audience. Thanos, originally conceived as a minor background tease, was expanded into the entire universe's most powerful villain based directly on fan reaction and anticipation. Yet the saga closed with precise narrative symmetry. The exact unscripted phrase Robert Downey Jr. improvised to reveal his identity at the end of the 2008 film, "I am Iron Man," is the precise line his character speaks to finally save the universe in Endgame. Today, fans actively speculate about Tony Stark's potential return. Because Marvel recently introduced the multiverse concept, a structural system of alternate parallel realities, there is now a built-in mechanism for different versions of the character to appear in the future. The studio's current reach exists because a desperate team bet every remaining asset on a B-list character in a metal suit.